Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to CohenTalks, or the Ron and Sandy Cohen Business Professionalism Speaker Series. And it's a program that we offer here at Marshall University in the Lewis College of Business. The series allows students from the Brad D. Smith Schools of Business to make the connection between classroom teachings and real-world business applications through meeting experienced and successful professionals like Mr. Linville. So this year, the theme is Game Changers in Business and Beyond. And in that theme, we seek to understand how Marshall, alumni, and friends have been successful and innovative in the world of work. And so we were thankful. We actually have Mr. Cohen on the phone call today. I just saw his name pop up. And so we're really here. He's one of our alumni as well. So we're excited about that. And cover our speaker, give you a little bit background about our speaker today. Daniel Linville is a lifelong West Virginian and resident of Cabell County. He has never called any other place home. Daniel is a proud son of Marshall. His family's been in small business for over 30 years. He grew up watching his father and grandfather through all their ups and downs and operating that business. He understands the importance of hard work and determination to succeed. Daniel joined his family in business about 5 years ago, and he's very well versed in the challenges that brings. He's a member of the Rotary Club, so am I, in Huntington, but he's in Milton, and he's a member of the Cabell Wayne Beekeepers Association and Generation Huntington. So we're grateful to have you here with us today, Daniel, and we're also grateful that, to bring back an alum. I will also mention that Daniel was a president of a student organization called SHRM that we have here on campus, and that stands for the Society for Human Resources. And he was heavily involved in that, and that remains to be successful on campus. And then also, I want to congratulate him because last week he won another term as our delegate in this district. So welcome, Daniel. We're glad to have you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I apologize there. My camera fell just a second ago. So, anywho, it's a true honor to be able to be here with all of you this afternoon. I thought about doing a PowerPoint and had one sort of prepared, but I sort of decided that rather than boring you with PowerPoint, I would hopefully just give you a few of the things that I've learned since my time at Marshall, and kind of share with you how some of the relationships that I gained at Marshall have really taught me, sort of some of the things that have made me who I am. And so first and foremost, I'd like to say, thank you to Brad Smith, obviously, for his generous support of the school. And thank you to each and every one of you for being able to be here on the call today. A little bit about me. I graduated late 2014. From 2013, 2014, I was president of the Society for Human Resource Management. And actually, SHRM was both the first election I ever won and the first election I ever lost. And so I didn't actually originally even run for anything in the Society for Human Resource Management, but I was sort of drafted to run for their treasurer, and I voted against myself because somebody else wanted it. So that was the first election that I ever lost by one vote. It was my vote. And then the next semester, I was approached to run for president of the Society for Human Resource Management. And when I did that, obviously I was successful there. And when we first came in, we wanted to go to a case competition and compete against some of the other schools. And we had to raise a fair amount of money. When I came in, we had tens of dollars in the bank. And when I left, we had thousands of dollars in the bank and had sent several students to a case competition, all expenses paid. And then when we did that, it was kind of interesting because we actually beat WVU, and we beat several other schools. I think we placed second in that case competition and sort of raised the profile of the human resource program at Marshall. And so that was really, really good. Marshall had a deep impact on me, and I'll give you a little bit of background and some of the things that I've learned in business. First and foremost, I had some great professors. To this day, I still remember Dr. Agueso's class, where I first was introduced to the basis of how money is lended all across the country, and that is utilizing the time value of money. And that is something that I think is one of the best things for entrepreneurs to understand. More especially, I think first and foremost, you need to understand that when you're looking at loans. But let's go a little bit further, right? When the government looks um, uh, to spend money, to borrow money, to lend money, to do whatever it is that we're going to do, we need to understand the basis on which that's going to happen. And so, as you look to make business decisions in a small business or a large business, you need to understand, obviously, the time value of money, and sort of that money now is certainly worth a whole lot more than money later. That was incredibly helpful to me, because I use that every day. So my family's been in small business for quite a while. And I think first and foremost, to give you a little background, back 35, 36 years ago, IBM had a typewriter dealership available in Williamson, West Virginia. And we got started as an IBM dealer, and then those went the way of the dinosaurs, and we got into, at the time it was word processors, and then printers and computers and all that sort of thing. And now we own a small IT company that does almost entirely all business to business. And we have clients from the southern coal fields into Ohio, Kentucky, and several other places. And I think that has been that has shaped my life a lot. I understood the struggles that come with small business, and it's probably one of the biggest reasons why I got into government, is because I saw how government action could make things harder or easier on small business. And when you go into business, a lot of times you got a lot on the line. It can be, your retirement. My family doesn't have a lot of money in stock, and all those sorts of things. My father's retirement is based on the success or failure of our companies, and that's a pretty big thing. By way of a little further background on me, in very early 2013, my grandfather actually passed away in a house fire, and he was one of the founders of our companies. And so I actually finished my degree in night classes, and I joined my family in business earlier than we planned, and not with a very successful transition. And so, to anyone who's looking to be an entrepreneur on this call, or is looking to be hired into a business, and certainly steer it the right way, the unexpected can and will happen. And so I would just say, one of the smartest things that you could possibly do is to plan for the unexpected, and to make sure that no one's irreplaceable. And so someone needs to know every job in the business, more than one person. And so slowly, from 2013 onward into 2017 and 18, we were able to grow our business more than 10% year over year each year. And that then allowed me and afforded me some latitude to be able to do some very interesting things. And I then saw that Carol Miller was going to run for Congress, and Carol was my delegate. And I started surveying the field and seeing who would run for office, and it turned out that almost nobody really had signed up. And I started meeting some of our local elected officials, and I realized that they're all people too. And I'm just like any of you. I went to Marshall, and I'm not a superstar. I'm not a superhero. I'm just somebody who's willing to work hard and try to make connections and help as many people along the way as I possibly can. And so that allowed me I decided to run for office. And before I knew it, I'd managed to emerge successfully from a primary, a 7-person primary. And then we had another retirement actually in my district. And before you know it, it's August the 1st, and I'm interviewing with the governor at the governor's mansion for to see who he wanted to allow to be delegate and to appoint. And I ended up being successful in that. And so I was appointed on August the 1st. I was sworn in on August the 3rd of 2018. And on August the 13th, 2018, the very first thing I ever did was impeach the entire West Virginia Supreme Court. So Mr. Linville goes to Charleston. It was a very lot like Mr. Smith goes to Washington, right? It was an incredible thing. So since then, I've been able to make an impact not only in my businesses, but in the state legislature. So in so doing, Marshall University, I fought for another $1 million of funding for Marshall in the 2019 budget. We were successful in gaining that. I'm a big supporter of Marshall University, and I really believe that the keys to success in business are helping other people get what it is that they want. So often, you hear about competition in business, you hear about competition in interpersonal life, but the reality is that it's not always competition, in that someone has to win and someone else has to lose. The real key is that, um, you look for the win-wins or the three-way wins or four-way wins. And if you can find those, that's what will set you apart, as an individual, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as just a successful person. And that's true in interpersonal relationships. That's true in government. That's true in, certainly in business. And that's what I tend to look for. And so, in the legislature, I'm very proud to be able to serve, as the vice chairman currently of the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure. That may change, here very shortly as we come into the 85th West Virginia legislature, because the chairman, did not run for reelection to the House of Delegates, and so there's a vacancy there. In addition to that, I'm also, the representative for, the House of Delegates on the statewide Broadband Enhancement Council, and in that capacity, I represent the interests of the West Virginia House and the public, on that board. And so, with everything that's been going on with COVID and all the Zoom calls that we're doing, and even what we're doing right now, that leverages some of my private sector experience and some of our work, in the legislature to work to expand broadband for the people of West Virginia. You may have heard of some of the Facebook projects that are going on. You may have heard of several others, that are going on. Thundercloud, which is also a partnership with, Marshall Health and several others. We're working to solve that problem. And, I've been very privileged and very blessed, to be able to be in a position to where, we can, I can play a role in that. And all been about how willing you are to apply yourself. When you get into government service, no one holds your hand, and no one's going to force you to do anything. The only people that can fire you are the voters. And, so for 2 years, you've got to be a self-starter. You've got to choose, to push yourself and to do the things that you need to do to best represent your people. And that's what I've tried to do the whole time. So I've been, the lead sponsor of our Broadband Enhancement and Expansion Acts, in 2019, 2020, and I'm already drafting the 2021 legislation. So, on top of all that, I'm also the chair of our, Employee Suggestion Award Board, which takes suggestions from people in state government that don't, cut services, benefits, or anything of that nature, but just find ways where we can save money as a state and do things better. And so I've been very, very, pleased to be able to save hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next 10 years, in my short time as chairman, on the Employee Suggestion Award Board. And, that has made a pretty significant difference. Rather than going through a big PowerPoint, I wanted to give you that background on myself, but I'd like to give you, some keys to success. I watched some of the previous CohenTalks, and I wanted to, go through what I thought would be the best message that I could deliver to you all, today. And that essentially is, that the key to being successful, is applying yourself. All these people that you see that are wildly successful, the Brad Smiths, the Cohens, the, whether it's a president, any elected official, whether it's the most successful entrepreneur, they're all people just like you. They all started just like you. And all that it takes truly, is, taking advantage of the opportunities that are presented to you and being willing to work. And if you're willing to develop yourself personally, if you're willing to read, for personal, development and enrichment, if you're willing to, hear from other people and seek out mentors, which has been incredibly helpful in my life, and I'll go over a few of them, here shortly. If you're willing to do that and you learn from other people, you would be surprised at how far that you can go. And, I'm 30, almost 31 years old, and I've got, I guess a few folks who want to hear, how I've done what I've done, and that's, it's the craziest, thing that I never would have thought that I would be in the position that I'm in now. But I'm incredibly grateful, to be in that position, and I'm incredibly, grateful to be able to speak with all of you. So a few things I thought I'd give you a book recommendation. Many of you probably have heard this before, but it was one of the most impactful books that I've ever read, and that is How to Win Friends and Influence People, by Dale Carnegie. And that book will teach you, the ways in which you can communicate with people and to understand what it is that motivates people and how to show other people, that they're important to you. And so that regards listening to them actively, that regards looking for ways to show that they are important to you. And then how to work together to try to accomplish some amazing things. You'll never do almost in almost anything you do, you won't be able to do alone. I'm where I am now, and I'm in the positions that I'm in now because I've been able to learn from so many great people. And a lot of folks think of your professors and they play a huge role, and your teachers and they play a huge role, and your family. But significantly more than that, you need to look to the people that you surround yourself with. Learning doesn't stop when you leave college. It doesn't stop when you left grade school. It's a lifelong endeavor. And so I would highly recommend How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that would change your life. And then you'd be surprised how willing your professors will be, and even Marshall alumni. And I'll extend this offer before I take questions or anything else, but I'll extend this. If I can be helpful to any of you, if I can teach you anything, if I can be a sounding board, if there's anything at all that I can do to help, I want to pay forward some of the benefits that I've been able to have, and the ways that I've been able to learn from other people. So first, let me just say that mentors I've had. I've been mentored by a retired circuit judge who is just absolutely incredible, and has been he's a member of Mensa. He's an incredible person, and I speak with him at least once a week. We go over various things that are going on in my life. Every once in a while, I'm able to tell him something he didn't already know, but he had an interest in technology and various things. That's been huge for me. I have mentors around the Capitol. I have mentors in various different aspects of life, who are willing to share their wisdom and experiences and the difficulties that they've previously had in trying to make sure that I don't repeat some of those same mistakes. I think that is incredibly important. You'll see that from some incredible people at Marshall. Brad Smith has been incredible. I've gotten to work with him on a few different projects. Brad's one of those people. He's one that's willing to pay it forward and try to help other people. So Brad's incredible. This particular series here, I mean, the Cohens are, they're paying it forward. I would tell you that if you do some of those things, if you take advantage of those opportunities, it'll be incredible. And right before Q&A, the thing that I would like to, I guess, put forward is a quote that I remembered here relatively recently from a former FBI hostage negotiator. And that was, never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better. If you remember that in business, whether you're starting your own business or whether you're managing people, or no matter what it is that you're doing, that will be an absolutely incredible help to you. Secondly, before we take questions, I would tell you that I would be remiss if I didn't remind you, today is Veterans Day. So if anyone watching right now is a veteran, thank you. Everything that we're able to do and the freedoms that we're able to talk about here today are based on their sacrifices. And finally, I'd like to hit one last point, and that essentially is that I think in 3 days, we're at the 50th anniversary of the Marshall University plane crash. And there were 75 people on board that plane who would be happy to be able to continue to contribute to our communities, to the university, and to have been those mentors that I was talking about, and to be business leaders and community leaders and faith leaders in our community, and our community lost them. And so we all have a responsibility to Marshall University. We have a responsibility to Huntington, West Virginia, and the entire state to do everything we can and be the best us that we can be in honor of them, because the things that they would have done with the rest of their lives are absolutely incredible. With that, I'll take questions. I hope I haven't droned on too long, and it is truly an honor to be able to speak with each and every one of you today.
Thank you, Daniel. We really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to come out today and speak with us. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, I'm trying to figure this out. Just 1 second. Okay, there we go. There we go. So I have a couple questions for you as students are thinking about questions to ask you and our audience. Um, as we look at our curriculum, and we're starting to do that, we're starting to look at our core curriculum in the College of Business, and you've taken some business courses as well in the Lewis College of Business. And what do you think the most important skills are for students today? And especially as we, transition into technology, and that you're a big proponent of broadband in the state, especially in this area of West Virginia, um, and how those skills changed since you graduated.
Well, they've changed a lot. Computing has moved a whole lot to the cloud. I would tell you first that you've got to be familiar with technology, and if you're not, you're going to be falling behind. There's absolutely no question about it. I mean, COVID has put a spotlight on this, but I think that the first thing that folks need to do, if you are not computer savvy or at least literate, and comfortable with tech, and just about everybody on this call should be. But if you're not, you're going to be falling behind. It is a skill set. It is a familiarity that you've got to have in every possible way. As it regards curriculum, right? I think work experiences are probably going to be the first thing that I would say. A lot of things are really good in theory, but what separates people in the business world is not just a knowledge. It's not about understanding how to read an income statement or a balance sheet. It's not about understanding how to how to make projections. It's whether or not folks have I don't want to say grit, but have the determination to continually apply the things that they've learned. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you will not apply it, you will not be successful. And so that determination is really what separates folks who have the ability, but then don't do it, from the wildly successful entrepreneurs, community leaders, faith leaders. Those are some of the biggest things that I would say are incredibly important. I think secondarily, and I don't just say this. I think that as we look at curriculum, and I'll even say that I'm a proponent of this as it regards looking at this from even a funding formula for our universities. I think that the curriculum should be done hand in hand with employers, because the idea that, I will tell you that Marshall University has outperformed just about every university in the state as it regards this. But I think that one of the most important things that you can do is to not require additional training after someone graduates. So it should be more than a lambskin on the wall. It should be about, what do you know that can be instantly applied the moment that that you're hired or that you begin to start your business. And that is incredibly important. What I hear from employers as they look to choose a state where they're going to set up operations is, there's questions about the available workforce, the education of the workforce, but really the question is, are they going to have to spend $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 educating someone on skills that they will utilize every single day that they perhaps were not taught just in the theory when they were in college or high school or so on and so forth. So I think that a curriculum built hand in hand with the existing employers, where people are going to be, hopefully going to work, would be the single greatest thing that Marshall University could be doing. And so that I think is probably one of the most important things, and hopefully will be a guiding principle as Marshall grows, and as the Brad Smith School of Business continues to grow.
Thank you. We do have a question from Melissa. She says, what is your advice for interviewing through Zoom and other online platforms? And then the second part of the question is, what qualities do you look for in job candidates and coworkers?
Yeah. Well, first things first, make sure your camera doesn't fall down. So that's why my arm is kind of moving here to the left. My stand is about worn out from all the Zooms that I've been on. And so I apologize about that. So number one, make sure your camera doesn't fall down. Number two, make yourself presentable, and come across comfortable, right? I would tell you that one of the smartest things that you can do before you get used to all these Zoom, calls and meetings and all that sort of stuff is to have a FaceTime or something like that with somebody who you're very, very comfortable with before you hop on the call, right? And so I will tell you, before I even hopped on this call, it's my grandmother's birthday today, and so I did a quick video call with grandma before I hopped on this call, just to say hello, all that sort of stuff, and invite her to dinner this evening. But so that's going to be number one, right? So when you are interviewing, you want to be comfortable, assertive, but willing to. You need to show a willingness. This is true in any interview that you're going to do. You need to show a willingness that to work and adapt, right? Um, Everything we do in business changes, and I hate to make constant reference to COVID, but coronavirus changed how people do business, and I don't just mean some of your largest businesses. Overnight, nearly, if you wanted to continue to do business, you had to do it virtually. So that meant from C-level executives all the way on down the line, one of the first things that you had to do was be prepared and get everybody working from home. Okay. And so what did that take? That took a tremendous amount of flexibility, quick planning, working through a whole lot of problems. And we as an IT company were helping many of our clients get there, right? So how do they make sure that they can securely access their systems from home, all those sorts of things. So that is incredibly important. So that's thing number one. Thing number two, what do I look for in hires and in coworkers and even colleagues, right? I look for a willingness to learn more than anything. If someone is teachable, they can do just about anything. So you look for determination, you look for a desire to actually work, and don't think, as a small business owner, there is no job in my companies that I won't do, and that includes taking out the trash, that includes dusting, that includes literally yesterday we had a difficult install down in Logan, and yesterday before a dinner that I had with the Speaker of the House, I was in Logan, West Virginia, helping some of my technicians on an entire network overhaul with brand new switches, gateways, an entire new phone system, and I was making sure that everything went well, and they needed an extra hand, and I was down in Logan and was 10 minutes late to dinner. So that and with someone more important than me, the Speaker of the House, right? If you're willing to, if you show that there is nothing that is beneath you, that will go so far. And it's not because you want to be. I mean, the whole reason that we're in universities is certainly to become more well-rounded people, but it's such that you can hold the job that you want to have, but never feel like any job, task, or duty is beneath you. And I try to lead by example on that. Staff and support staff make things happen for you. My mother is a secretary for Cabell County Schools, and she, without some of her work, there's certain things that other people wouldn't be able to do, and for you to put to work the things that you've learned at Marshall University, for you to be able to put those things to work, the only way that you can do that is if people around you are willing to help you and want to work for you and with you. The only way that you can have that happen is to lead by example. So those are the two key things that I look for in hires and colleagues in any staff that I employ, is exactly that.
That's great. I do have another question. If you go back to college, you could wind the clock back. What's the one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Yeah. Wow. Well, there's a few things that I think that pop into my mind, but I think first and foremost would be earlier in my college career, I would have wanted to take advantage of some of the relationships that were made available. There are some very successful professors that we have at Marshall University that have a wealth of knowledge, and they can open up so many doors for you, and can teach you things beyond simply the material. Some of the classes I thought I was going to like the least, I ended up learning the most from. So I never would have thought originally that taking a human resources course would have led me to joining the Society for Human Resource Management, which would lead me to, learning that I guess I could in fact win an election, to learning what it takes to hire and fire and hire and fire people and to do so in the right way, in a way that is objective and not subjective. And that, so I think the biggest thing that I would say is to take advantage of every opportunity that's presented to you in the time that you have available. And if you're willing to do that, there are some doors that will open to you. I mean, you've got to understand that these professors have connections all across the country. They know people. They have a network and a connection. I mean, we see it on LinkedIn, we see it on Facebook and Twitter and so on and so forth. It is incredibly important that you take advantage of the relationships that are afforded to you. And if I would have done that 2 years earlier, I can only imagine what experiences that I would have had. Luckily, I finally figured it out, a few years in, and it made a significant change in my life. I mean, there's an incredible person she was an adjunct member of faculty at the time, and I think now works for the Marshall Foundation. But Rosie Brighty was an incredible person for me to get to know. She had a mastery of human resources, and afforded me the opportunity to join the Society for Human Resource Management, and took an interest in my education, and just an absolutely incredible person. And if you'll do that, you will be unbelievably successful in just about any environment, simply by taking advantage of those relationships. Life is about relationships.
Absolutely. And in fact, probably one of your former professors, Dr. Margie McInerney, if you remember her.
Yep.
I don't think she could be with us today. She had a meeting, but she wanted to be. But it is about relationships, and it's about hanging on to those relationships, and finding a mentor. That's really important as well. Is finding a mentor. Who's been your mentor? You mentioned a couple of people, but who's been your mentor that you've relied on, and how have you developed that relationship?
Yeah, so it was an unlikely one, right? Probably the biggest mentor I've ever had is Judge Dan O'Hanlon from Cabell County. Judge O'Hanlon, he and I met, believe it or not, because I wanted to get into beekeeping. Business can be stressful, and going into a family business can be very stressful. And as I alluded to earlier, there were some difficulties in 2013 with an untimely passing of my grandfather, one of our founders. And so my father and I looked for something that we could do together that was not business. And that something ended up being beekeeping. Grandpa used to keep bees, and we thought it would be something relaxing. I'm sure there's plenty of you that may not think that's a very relaxing thing to do, but we did. And so, believe it or not, we decided to try to look for someone local that sold honeybees. And it turns out that person was Judge Dan O'Hanlon. And he seemed to know absolutely everything about beekeeping. And we struck up a friendship, and I offered to buy him lunch a number of times, and he graciously accepted and let me ask all kinds of dumb questions about beekeeping. And that went on for probably a year and a half, 2 years. And then we found out that we both like to play chess. And so we would do that. And I've never beaten him at chess ever. If you ever want to go to the Huntington Chess Club, you will find out just how not good you are at chess, but you can beat all your friends. So that's always a bonus. And so I think I've won one game of chess at the Huntington Chess Club, by the way, one. But anyway, I really enjoy it. And so you find those common grounds, and then, that relationship, I will tell you, I knew, obviously, I mean, the man's a judge. He'd been through politics, and you see all the crazy things that go on a national level, some even on a state level. I actually talked with him when I was thinking about running for office after speaking to my father and even praying about it and some of those things. He encouraged me to give it a shot. And some of those relationships, sometimes you'll look at very successful people. You'll look at a Brad Smith. You'll look at, maybe, one of your professors. You'll look at some elected official, not me, but maybe some elected official, and think that there's somehow this I don't know, this otherworldly, unbelievably successful person. And what you'll find is that they're all real people too, right? They have good days, they have bad days, they, all those things. But what separates them is their constant ability to apply themselves day in and day out. You can have a rough day, but you're going to get up at 9 a.m. tomorrow. You're going to be back at the office. You're going to have a smile on your face, and you're going to remember, what it takes to be successful. And that's exactly the things that will end up making those things happen. So that's been one of my biggest mentors. There's been several others. I have some who I won't mention, but who are very, very good people. And I think that life is built on pillars, right? Certainly the biggest mentor in my life is my father, and I've been very blessed to have him. But beyond that, life's built on pillars. So, I think everybody needs people to love and something to believe in, and something to live for. So if you can find mentorships in each of those things, sometimes it'll be maybe a faith mentor with whatever faith that you have. Maybe it'll be in business, and then maybe it'll be just in something that you really enjoy. And if you can find that, you will be a very well balanced person. You will be on an even keel, and you'll be able to roll with the punches of life in a really unique way.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Do you have any parting comments before we end today?
Sure. Well, first things first, go herd, right? So let me say that. Second thing that I would say is, if I can ever be of assistance to any of you, I'm where I am today, and to whatever degree that I'm successful now, I am where I am now because there have been some incredible people who have been willing to work with me, and if in any way I can help you, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact info all over the internet, but if any of you want it, I'd be happy to get it to you. I'm sure Glenn can help. And I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. If I can make a connection for you, if there's someone that I know that you'd like to speak with, if there's any way that I can be helpful, whether it's offering advice, whether it's making a connection, or just being a sounding board, I'd be more than happy to do it. And I want to see each of you succeed. And the only thing that I would ever ask in return is that you give back as well. And that's give back to Marshall, give back to Huntington, give back to the state of West Virginia, and give back to this world. And if you'll do that, if enough of us do that, we'll be in a much better place tomorrow.
Well, Daniel, I tell you, you're one busy young man. I'll say that because I'm probably older than you are, but you're very busy. I know that I see you doing a lot in our community, and I see you, and you have a full-time job as well. And so you stay very busy. And so I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be with us this afternoon. I want the audience to stay tuned. Next week, we'll have another speaker. I'll send out an announcement probably tomorrow announcing that. And you can always follow us on Facebook and Twitter by looking us up at Herd Business. Thank you all. Have a great afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.